So you might have seen a recent headline that reads, Steven Spielberg is gunning to make sure Netflix never has another Oscars contender like Roma, which is actually more or less a good catch-all for the article. And I'll put a link in the thing down there. But in summation, there's a number of issues that Spielberg and other members of the Academy have with Netflix's extremely limited theater distribution model, which I admit is fairly convoluted, and the amount of money they seem to be spending on ads, and Spiely, who is the Academy governor representing the director's branch, is expected to speak in favor of a rule change that might end up with Netflix movies being excluded from Oscars contention. Now, before we begin, I do suggest you read the article first, but this is a great example of something we call cultural gatekeeping. You ever wonder why the root word of culture is cult? Gatekeeping, as succinctly defined by Urban Dictionary. Seriously, guys, it's great. Don't sleep. When someone takes it upon themselves to decide who does or does not have access or rights to a community or identity. This someone, or someones, can be a person or people, an institution, and what better example of an institution in modern filmmaking is there than Steven Schindler's List was my student film Spielberg? No, it's not a joke. Look it up. Okay, Steven Spielberg is undoubtedly the most well-known filmmaker of all time. He's one of the most successful filmmakers of all time, both financially and critically. Unadjusted, he is the highest-grossing director of all time. He's one of the founding members of the New Hollywood movement. He's a household name. I'll even admit that I love a lot of his movies. I mean, the guy is worth $3 billion. And in capitalism, that gives one a lot of clout and sway and...
Big player. Swinging past your knees.
And that makes it a lot easier to gatekeep, you know? You can build a pretty strong wall with all that money. Don't take that seriously. That was a joke. And that's really all Spiely is doing here. Do you remember the time he didn't get nominated for Best Director for Jaws and this happened?
This is called commercial backlash.
Right.
I don't know if anybody knows the word commercial backlash, but when a film makes a lot of money, people resent it. Everybody loves a winner, but nobody loves a winner.
Now, of course, there are a few other qualifications in relation to like length and aspect ratio and format and all sorts of shit for a movie to be considered for the Oscars. But the big one that we're concerned with here is that a film must open in the previous calendar year from midnight at the start of January 1st to midnight at the end of December 31st in Los Angeles County, California, and play for 7 consecutive days. And hey, maybe you're a bit more of a purist or a stickler than me, but that's pretty good for me. Because that threshold alone, especially in a market where the majority of consumers receive their entertainment through streaming services, already excludes a lot of movies, a lot of good movies. And yeah, sure, maybe Netflix should be a little bit more like the blood-soaked dystopia of Amazon and actually license their movies to theater chains instead of this weird rental arrangement, and maybe share the wealth a little bit and let people get even a cursory look at their numbers. But all that is just kind of minutia and really shouldn't matter, because I thought the Oscars are supposed to have this sheen of not being a popularity contest, despite the fact that it's an academic award that is decided by a voting body. But you know, at least for me, when I think Best Picture of the Year, I don't think movie that everyone liked the best. Maybe you do, but that's more or less the reason why movies like Green Book keep winning Best Picture. That thinking is also partially the reason people take the Rotten Tomatoes score as some sort of impenetrable fact engraved in stone. And Best Picture also doesn't mean, or shouldn't mean, movie that made the most money or played in the theaters the longest. Remember when the lowest grossing Best Picture winner beat out the highest grossing movie of all time for the top prize?
And the winner is The Hurt Locker.
Does the Academy maybe want to show some consistency? The rules are already pretty limiting and gatekeepy as they are, and I do have a problem with that, and making them more restrictive kind of just shows your hand for caring less about the artistic accomplishment of film and more about some arbitrary set of rules designed to keep out those you deem undesirable for whatever reason, especially if the person who thinks those rules should change is a person with as much power as Spielberg, a person who acquired that power, yes, somewhat through artistic craftsmanship, but primarily through box office numbers. and being a white man. You don't see Lynn Ramsey or Catherine Bigelow or Spike Lee with the same amount of Oscars as Spielberg. And I'm not saying what Netflix is doing isn't like a weird mess. And I kind of do think they ran a pretty shady campaign to promote Roma. But if box office performance has no direct impact on eligibility, then Netflix's transparency should be a matter for its users and not the Academy. And yeah, I do think Netflix should be transparent about their numbers. And when it comes to shady Oscar campaigns, how many times did the Academy give Harvey Weinstein or a film produced by one of his companies an Oscar? Oh. Anyways, gatekeeping is bad, and Spielberg is being an exclusatory dick in some misguided pursuit to define what real cinema is. Hey, maybe thinking the Oscars is a definitive arbiter of what that distinction is, kind of fucked, and leads to a very narrow way of looking at these things being art, which is something that really shouldn't be looked at with such a slim and intolerant point of view. It would be a real shame if some up-and-coming filmmaker put a lot of effort into a well-liked and successful film and then got snubbed for some bullshit reason.
Everybody loves a winner, but nobody loves a winner.
It would have been a real shame if Roma didn't get any Oscars recognition when it is definitely a film and definitely pretty great. And this is just one of the many issues with the Oscars in the Academy and basically all academic awards in general. What are you going to do? Abolish the Academy.